every day b'eifin prati for that day. V'nechad b'charkachli, and the seder eifin when it's nimshach from the klal to the prat, is first it's nimshach eifin klali, the klal is achayis, nimshach Rosh Hashanah, then it's nechad b'charkachli beis Rosh Chodashim, b'chodesh chodesh lamed yom. Agabana. So what do we see from here? The Rosh Hashanah is the Reish. Reish v'rishon l'chol Hashanah. V'lam ne'emar Rosh Chodashim, Rosh Chodashim. So the Sheikhs is arguing, the Pasuk calls also Rosh Chodashim and Reish Chodashim. If it was just the beginning, you see, Alpinikol Pashas that Rosh Hashanah means the beginning of a certain cycle. So then you can say there's Kamer Rosh Hashanah. Like Moshe Rabbar Rosh Hashanah means. It's not a Shaila. You have the Gabi Din Maestris. The beginning of the cycle is this the Chodesh Elul. The Gabi Malachim is a different. The cycle of the year starts from a different time. It's Nishka Shaila. Al Pichsidis that Rosh Hashanah means that the Chayis that is the Reish for the whole year. That the Chayis which is Nimshach whole year. The Reish of this Chayis is Nimshach Rosh Hashanah, and then the whole year is only that this Chayis. Kol is achayis. It's nimshach prati every day. So how could you have two heads? If the kol is achayis is nimshach Rosh Hashanah, so then Rosh Chodesh Nisan is a prat. There can't be two roshim. I mean, when is the kol is achayis nimshach? So if the kol is achayis is nimshach for the whole year, Rosh Hashanah, we're talking about the whole year. Hashanah is not the kol is achayis for 6 months. It's the Rosh Hashanah for the whole year. So the kol is achayis. The klal of everything is nimshach Rosh Hashanah. It's not shayach that there should be another klal Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Then this is not a klal. Then Rosh Chodesh Nisan is klal everything. And Rosh Hashanah is a prat in this. So we can say tzvei. That's the shayla. So that's the shayla. Loma nemer Rosh Chodesh Nisan, Rosh Chodashim. Yeah. So he answers like this. So the teres that the Chassidus brings is the be'etzim. There's two types of chayis as nimshach in the world. The truth is the Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh Tishri is Rosh Hashanah. It's like the kol is a chayis for the entire year. Kolel also listen is nimshach Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh Tishri. The Nachman das is ein sort chayis, which is nimshach the entire year, and the klal is nimshach Rosh Hashanah. The Nachman not zweiter sort chayis. That the whole year is mekabel. The whole fourth is 12 chadashim. A whole another chayis, the whole year is mekabel, and the reish for that other chayis is a Chodesh Nisan. The klal for this is two different sidrei chayis. Exactly what's this? To find does hit on it. Yeah, that's it. Here by Kedek, I'm just going. I'm going through the Maimer as Megeit Sadur. I don't know what the Elam knows, what the Elam doesn't. I'm just we're with a touching the media. V'hine b'akei the kos al basic fani mechelam anulei that dula saber. That's the ufta of that game. It's a pashas hadvarden that we know. It says in Psukim ki eresh shamecha mastes beisecha su'u marim enechem rumi barei. I mean, there's kind of Psukim that show that there could be a dias alakus from Welt. Shas hayidis ach mizbeinin in different yadam in Welt. You could know that yesh balabayis the birzu. Like the ki eresh shamecha mastes beisecha yirech yicham asher kenantu. The person who's mizbeinin in the Seder of the world, that there's different hisbonus. That if a person is going to be Mesim Alev, different in Yonah that he sees in Vel, let's see how everything works together, or other things, the fact that you have every Nivras Murka from Dal Yisraelis, that's right, there's a Davar HaMarkiv, it's a different Echachas that is brought in Sfarim, that if you're in the Sidra Elam, Sidra Teva, you could come to the Yedira, the Yesh Balabais Leberezu, Asfana Gotos, the Shaf in the Welt. That's without that Kedah. The Kedah Tutuch, that are Shteit Vardim, Yechedom Anolei, the Dula Saber. Pashas Advardim, what type of musik could you have of the Eibush of being Mizbenin in the Mitzvah Seirah? You have every single nivra is mugbal. You don't see bleak vol and veld. Every nivra is a davar prat and a davar mugbal. Shemayim, be'eretz, v'chav, mazal, all prat is taking mugbal to the things. So that you could from being Mizbenin, you can see that there's someone that created everything. But you can't see it. But the Eibush is bleak vol. The fact that the Eibush is ain't safe, that's not expressed in the world. The only thing you're going to see is that there's a creator. So the fact that the Eibush is a creator, that you can see for the fact from different things as rayas that the Eibush created the world and runs the world. But the fact that the Eibush is ain't safe betachlis is bleak vol. That's something which we don't see the pashas. You don't see that involved. So that's the chiddush of the akedah. That even the Eibush is godless. It means the Eibush is bleak vol. Is ain't safe, which is l'chur is something which is the velt is the gvul. The Eibush is gedula. L'chur is something which gets a chisharis in velt. Every single day, there's a certain structure of the system of teva that's on Haget Midas that was never mishtana. There's no shini and there's no hefsek. Means the fact that the Seder Abri is that the sun, like you learn in the Rambam, that the sun has the whole Seder of Mahalchi Galgalim. And the Ram gives the Cheshbain is because the Seder Sibav of the sun and the moon and all the Galgalim there, they have a Seder Kavua that never changes. The Ram gives the Seder exactly how it works. There's no changes. You can predict from the beginning. There's a Seder of how the Shemesh and the Reich are mislated, the Galgal Eilam, and there's no Shinui. There's no Shini and there's no Hefsik in that Hanhagas Eilam. The Shemesh every single day and every single year has its cycle. How the Shemesh is Seviv Sabriya. And Al Derech is the Gidra Teva, winter, summer. The Sidri Ha'elam, the Sidri Teva are the Hanhagis Tmidim, which was never a Shinin. It was never like 1,000 years ago the sun used to travel slower around the world, and now the sun travels faster. The same exact Mehirus and system, the way the Shemesh and the way the Yerech worked 5,000 years ago, exactly the same way they're today also. So the Anhaga Tmid, Shemisnaik Tomid, the Anhaga Sabriya is Ba'efan Echad B'li Shinui, Me'oz Me'olam. B'li Shinui B'li Hefse. So them sagt in Nitzchai, in Bezen Niker Keach Ha'insa. In them is Niker, the fact that the Eivish is big full. We'll see, he's going to explain why. Those are the Zachalim. So Stamazay, the fact that the Eivish, just an Eivish which a Keach, Mugbal, you can't come to understand the fact that the Niv, that the Seder, that Taluchas Ha'elam is Na'efan Tmidi B'li Shinui. Oh, he starts being going through the plot. Come here, Hashem Shayireh, Fakechovim, V'chol HaGagal. So B'sibuvam HaTmidi, Shemesabevim Tamid Mizrach L'Mayrav, Ve'ena, and so it was never as man that Mitamol they went from Mayrav to Mizrach, or they started going from Tzaf to Dor. The same exact Sibuv is Be'efin Tmidi. Ve'ena Meshanim Estafkidim, Ubli Hefsek, it was never a star. Never for a second took a break from being... so what's the right that it's Ein Sof? Maybe they're very, very powerful and they could continuously raise the Charum. Why is there a right that it's Ein Sof? So that's Hit to Namaz. He brings big story. It's not Mayrich, he just says the Kufini. The Rashab is not Eisen to bring this in. He wants to bring God that there's two types of Chayis, which is Nimshach about. But he brings this Akeda Zagdam. Zagdam. The Mitzad Atzma, Mitzad the Nivra itself, Mitzad the Shemesh Yerech itself, Me'ach Hashem Bali Gvul. First, the Shemesh, the Pasha the Guf. The Guf of the Shemesh is a limited body. It's a very massive body, but it's a limited body. It's not big Gvul. The Shemesh is Guf. The Alter brings the Guf Samazayim Pam and Kader Oris. There's a certain Gvul to how big the Guf of the Shemesh is. So, since they're if the Shemesh is Guf is Gvul, so the klal is that the Chayis HaMalubash by Guf also has to be a Chayis Mugbal. Now, the klal is that Adavar Mugbal HaYisarachli is Hefsek Lizibubam. If the Chayis, the Kaya, the energy that the Shemesh has, would be only a limited energy, he wouldn't be able to have this in of Anhaga Tmidis Blishini, because the Tchun of a Dover Amukbal is that there must be a Hefsik to Sibuv. The Chol Bagvol Arei Mishtan. Yeah, the Musik of Chol Bagvol Arei Mishtan is much more easier to understand because, that's the Chshuz always brings to Rabbeinu B'chaya, last week's parasha. The Evisher told Otam Arishan, the B'yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas. The day you eat from the Eitz Adas was to starve. You're going to die. So the Shaila is the Peli ate from Eitz Adas and there's Nishki starving yet. He lived quite Gat Arichas Yamim, Otam Arishan. So what's the Yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas? So the B'chaya explains the truth is Yem HaChol Chilmenu Meis Thomas because Kolzman didn't think Eitz Adas he would have lived forever. So then what they left to Afebi. The minute it was Nikdas and Misal Adam Arisha. So now there's a limit to how long he's going to live. So let's say he ate his Adas, now he has 929, whatever it was, time to live. Now every single second that he's alive, the Misa already starts to the beginning that he's born. Because why does a person die at 120? Pstam is the same strength, 120, mitamoli, segetavek. Because the person L'chatchil is a limited being. This guf could last for 120 years. Once the guf lived a day, so now how long can this guf last? 119 years. And another year, 118 years, until it gets weaker and weaker and weaker until it's sever taste. So Davar Mugbal, the hefsek doesn't start when he finishes. The hefsek starts in the beginning. I have a certain amount of power, of how much I have. The minute I use a little bit of my power, I use some. And now I have less. Now I use more, I have less. So that's Machad. So Shinui, why is there Shinui? L'chatchila, when the Shemesh started, it was a much stronger than today. The Shemesh started 5,000 years. If it had the limited amount of chayis, of how long, let's say it's able to last for 6,000 years, so it already used that a major amount. So there should have been a Shinui. Then when it started being mislave, was a Davar Chazak B'Yesef. Now the guf should have been, the guf Hashem should have been shvacher, and its koyach should have been weaker, and there's no shinui. A person, you can't stay the same energy from when you're born to 120 years old because there's shinui the entire time. Because you're able to live, because you have a limited amount of time you're able to live. The minute you live a certain amount, you already used up part of it, so there's shinui. Now you have less amount of time. I'm saying it in numbers, but the word is shinui. A person gets old, gets young, there's shinui because there's constant using out of the chayis. And that's why it's mischaler sof kosa. The shemesh, the same fresh guf the shemesh had 100 years today, the shemesh has today, and the same amount of energy it has today, the same chayis mamish. And as a person has to, by definition, should have been a hefsek because the shemesh less is able to, let's say it would be a chayis mukh, able to surround the world 6,000 years. But look, after 6,000 years, it loses its energy. So when it, let's say, did a sequel, The Galgal Achi dort not gedreht the ganze Galgal for 1,000 years. So that energy was used already. The chayes that it's using now is a new chayes already. It would be that's already. So there's a hefsek. A person, let's say, you lived one day. The life that you live today, tomorrow the life that you live is already a new kiyum. It's not the same life as yesterday. Yesterday's life was used up. If it's a chayes mukbal, so there's by definition a hefsek to the chayes, because every little that you use is eizgenus and it's nichla. But he says I'm just saying the nekuda is that if we the seder on Haggadah Shemesh Yerech is a sip of tmidi, and there's never a shchlishus in the shinu. The zel bazach it has to be that this koyach is blikvol. Because if this koyach was mugbo, that means one day it's going to end. That means there's a certain amount of energy that's there. Certain amount that had to be shinuyim the entire time. That's what he says. Elamai, we never used that in the koyach. Why didn't we use it? Because it's blikvol. It's not a davar mugbo before. That's the one thing. So here we see kenikab is a koyach ein sof. So that's read there till now. That's what the Rebbe Rashab brings from the Akedas the Gabe. The Shemesh Yerech always surrounding the world. There's an Hoget Midis. Now that the Rebbe Rashab is Meisif, the Chassidus brings us a lot. Kmeke not only from the Sib of Tmidi of the Shemesh Yerech. See, the Sib of Tmidi of the Marech HaSayla. Kmeke is also the Cholos HaNefrim. The door opens and closes in the beginning of the year. Then, the Herzog better. Good. To make him chos on Ephraim mitzvah shemai mitzvah. It's also when they get the chos on Ephraim. Oh, so he says not only gets mitzvah. We can see this with chos on Ephraim. Where sai mitzvah shemai, sai mitzvah. So who's that with us? First of all, that you see that shit. That you see keich inside. Das schon weiter about. Wir nicht da steht in der Kette. Das bringt er von anderen Plätzen. Von Chassidus schon das in. Da Kette brings himself the sip of Tmidi, the Shemesh Yerech. But here he has like this. Make him chos on Ephraim. Not only the Shemesh Yerech and the sip of Tmidi. A regular person, you can see even b'min ha'anush. What do you see? So first of all, you see the Shein Kayam and B'min U'B'ish. The Shemesh L'mashal, so the Shemesh Guf has no Kelayim. The Guf has Shemesh. Till now you're speaking about the get to the Sibuf of the Shemesh. Others, the Shemesh Guf has Kayam and B'ish, or the sky is Kayam and B'ish. The Galgalim are Kayam and B'ish. That person never got weaker. The Guf never got weaker. Besides for the Sibuf. And others, when they get the Tzvah Ardes, every single Nivra is Kayam and B'min. The Sug, there's no Kilayim in the in the Kayach HaLeida, you see in of Ein Sof. It's not the pshat that today it was the Kayach HaLeida of a person is weaker than the Kayach HaLeida 1,000 years ago. The Kayach HaLeida is the same starket. The Min HaAdam is never going to be this bottom. It's not that the Kayach HaLeida got weaker. So the Chorda, if it was the Kayach Mugbal, a person is Gvul. If a person is Gvul, the Chayes that he has is also Gvul. So if the Chayes that he has is also Gvul, so how could there be an unlimited Indian in the person? The fact that a person is able to be married enough, and this person can be married again, it's Blik Gvul. And the chveis from this garden, which is in the Paris, we matzmiach more Paris and more Paris and more Paris. And there's no gvul to the if the apple is limited, the chayes mugbal, so then the ability for it to continue should have been limited. And the Paris is not. It's kayam b'min. There's no min that is zvatam. So maybe that's in the blikvul. Kenikim is a kayach ein sof. Question doesn't come out. Okay, there is my but that's the nekudas advar. That if it would be mugbal, what gedarf sein a hefsek in the Nivra? That's the purpose. See, the klal is that a Nivra mugbal only can contain a chayis mugbal. Because if it's the chayis blikvol is not a Nivra mugbal, it's not a klita chayis. If the chayis is mugbal, so how does it have an Indian? How does it promote the Indian that's ein safe? The kiyim b'min is in of ein safe. The keich hablat never got weaker. So that's a lie that you see from your keich ein safe. That's state. So sometimes the Rashal Kavan brings three nekudas you see keich ein safe. Saying that hoget mid is that the shemesh never gets weak. The sib of tmidi of the shemesh was never an that it's a gevan schwacher or needs to take a break. As in the same koyach that it had there when it started 5,000 years ago, the same koyach is being masabed today. That's in the bleak. The zweite zach is that kayam be'ish and kayam b'min. Those are so upon him. So that's where you see the of ein sof from the Eibishter involved. That's ein sof that kid is. That's ein. The zweite zach sagt the Rabbi is. Where is it nicker about the Kayach Ein Sof? From the fact that the Eibishter does things Shalei Apiteva. Mai. V'nes Yitzias Mitzrayim Kriyas Yamsuf. Chai Gavna. Yes, so it's Kriyas Yamsuf. Says Mitzrayim Kriyas Yamsuf. Apiteva Ein Nevi Dach Lebrech Misham. There's the Makis. There's Kriyas Yamsuf. Chai Gavna. That Shiddu the Marach is a bit Lateva. So Apiteva Mayim cannot stand firm. The fact that Mayim cannot stand is not because the reason why the Teva Mayim is that it can't stand that's connected to the tchunis. Mayim is a zam esert zach, that mitzad is tchunis, it flows. That's because the sheinish hamayim, and say that the shtashlus is the mitzad the sheinish hamayim, mayim is a zam esert zach, which doesn't stand for me. The fact that mayim begashmis, it has a certain tchuna is because mayim b'sharshim has a certain tchuna. And the say that Abiyah Mimkeri V'Sharshe, mitzad the Makri Abiyah Mimkeri V'Sharshe, mayim has the Agbala, that it can't flow. The fact that Abiyah took what made was scary sounds, took water and made it stand firm, because Abiyah is not limited in the Agbalas at all. Because Abiyah is not limited in any rules. Mitzad Sidri Abiyah, mitzad the Klolim, mitzad Chukei Habriya, mayim has to flow. The fact that Abiyah was mayim with mayim, and mayim stood firm, that's right. There's not mukbal in Agbalas. He's not mukbal in the system. According to the system, mayim has to flow. And there he adds it here. First of all, we're not going to hear it's mizet is begoli. Mayim is you see a nest. You can't shator someone who meinen because the shemesh is a powerful thing. You know for sure that it's the Eibush himself. But also another thing is benegay also the type of gilui. Benegay tanagas hateva, you don't see the ein sof. It's that the nivra hamukbal is constant. You don't see bleak vol the way it's b'fnei atzmei. You see that the nivra, which is mukbal, has a takeif which doesn't end. Mashenkin and the Inna you see that the Eibush is not limited in agbalas. It's not agbalas. You can take water and make it stand firm. You don't see a tnu of bleak vol in itself. So what's that akeda? So the akeda says here that there's two efanim where the fact that you know b'chal just a lukus, the fact that from being misbed in yon elam, can b'chal vis nasda get b'chkai. That's not the chesed akeda that we know from kam psukim that you can see. Here it is. The akeda as that you could be it's nicker gdulas elukus from bel. And the two efanim. One efan is nanagat midis. A zweiter zach is in the nanagat shlam derechatav. So the Rashab says in the maskana is going to be that these two hamshach is one of them is tishi, one of them is nisi. That's it. But before then, you have to understand first. He wants to bring out in order to say that the two Rashi Chadashim, Tisha and Nisan, one of them is the hamshach of the chayis of the Ein Sof of which is Melubish and Teva of Dvul, Hanagat Midis, and the second one is the Hanagat Nisis. You have to first explain that it's two separate Hamshachas. If there's one Hamshach of Ein Sof of Blik Vul, but expresses itself in two ways, so then if one of when is the Hamshach of Ein Sof Nimshach? If it's Nimshach Rish Hashanah, Rish Chodesh Tishrei, then you don't need Rish Hashanah, you don't need Nisan, and if it's Nimshach Nisan, you don't need Tishrei. So first he wants to be a makim that these two in that the Akeda says. These two fan of Gilead Ein Sof and Vel does not stand. It's one Hamshach of Ein Sof that expresses itself in two ways. It's two different Hamshachas. Sveva Zundere in Yonim and Ein Sof. It's not the same Hamshachas Ein Sof, which is just expressed in two ways. It's two different Hamshachas mitzad Ein Sof. That's what he says. And that's them to verstehen that the Shchodesh Tishrei is Nimshach Hamshacha, the first union of Ein Sof connected to Teva, and the second, and Nisis is Shchodesh Nisis. So Lohav and Sheirish in based on Yosana. What's the Sheirish? Once we get there's two separate Sharash. Like I said before, it's not the pshat that it's one Ein Sof, and just that it expressed itself l'poyel in two ways. In the Sheirish, it's Sveva Zunder Inyanim and Blikvo. In Ein Sof, there's two Inyanim. There's one Inyan that Velt is Gvol, and Velt brings out different Tchunis, Mukbalas that Eibush has. Eibush could create different Inyanim, Kaviyachol, in Tzir. Then there's a biti of the Eibush as Blikvol and Velt. We have two opposite ways of the expression of Blikvol. One Eifen is that the Blikvol is not Mevatel the Gvol. Fakir, the Blikvol is Mevatel, and then that the Gvol has the Inyan Tmidi, Inyan Nitzki, and then brings the Ein Sof. Another Eifen of Ein Sof is expressed in the fact that the Blikvol wird bottle. Das versteht man besser. With Nes, and Nagel is Shanam der Chateva. So the Blikvol is a Shalei Be'erech to Blikvol. So B'shas Blikvol is Meir, the Gvol wird is battle. But in the first day, the Gvol doesn't become Nisbata. The Blikvol is Nisgale, and then that the Gvol has a takeif Tmidi. So the reverse, it's two separate Inyanim in Ein Sof. There's one Inyan in Ein Sof, the Mitzad Ein Sof, he's not Mevatel Gvol. Fakert, Mitzad Ein Sof, there's a takeif to Gvol, takeif to Gvol. There's another Inyan in Ein Sof that's Mevatel Gvol, and that's Nisgale, but it's two separate Sharashim. It's not two separate Anhagis, it's Mushim two separate. So to verstehen, the Sherish, these two Anhagis, that for Maktiv zijn ganz Inyan. But these two, this Inyan, the Sherish Inyan based on Hagas Hanal, that's one of the Inyanim Ikrim of this Hemshach, Ma'amar, Chodesh, and Vayelach, is to bring out that L'chatchila Mitzad Ein Sof, there's two Inyanim Kaviyachol Ein Sof, which is expressed in these two Hamshachas of Hanhaget Tmidis, which the Ein Sof is nisbated that the Gvul has a take of Nitzchi, and the Inyan of Bitbul Marach Satat. It doesn't do that. But before that, he goes through a whole, is hipped on a 9 der Inyan, and until the second Maimur, until the end of this Maimur, we're going to go back to this Inyan a little bit. But that's going to be one of the main Inyanim of the Hemshach. Ja, ist verstandig dem Inyan. Okay, let me get back to the shade of these two anhagas are lahak. The mentions where they know. Okay, it brings the kids to the Mamorim before. What's that freer? That Fidiri said the pasuk says Ner Avai Nishma Sodom. There's different Yonim Chassidus. What the dimin between Ner to Neshama. So before the Mamorim brings that what's the dimin that the Neshama is in there? Kamaya Ner that's always in a matter of Ratzi B'Shuv. She'el V'Yer Tamid. It's never as a B'Menucha and one cup. It's always an efin of Ratzi B'Shuv. Eil V'Yer. There's the Neshama is also Tamid from the Ratzi B'Shuv. That's the answer I said that. The Nach sagte dort before, the Mamorim earlier, that this in it should be that a Yid should have a tunu of Ratzi B'Shuv. This bar, she has says Eres Mo Maila, two in Yonam is this bar. That b'chdei that a Yid should have Ratzi B'Shuv, and one in is there's a Eres Mo Maila. The Eibush has Me'eder a Yid. The Eibush has Me'eder a Yid is he should have a Ratzi Thalakus, and there also the Eibush gives a Siyu and Mo Maila that a Yid should be in a Eifin of Shuv. That's one. And then he says also, but the Iker, in order for a person to be Emes Ratzi B'Shuv and Emes Eifin, he has to have Dafke Rabbi B'Kei Chatzmi, not through Mo Maila. That's it. In this verse, Yesh has two in Yonam. Yesh has his Eres Mo Maila. Shemeirim is Sa'ad Lis V'Chin Sassi B'Shuv. The Eibush is Meirim. Omnam Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv V'Kei Chatzim V'Yasidav. He's Meirich earlier that there's only a Siyuat is Aveda and it only comes to Aveda. Fashid in the Pratim that he speaks before. But the Ikar Ratzi B'Shuv is V'Kei Chatzim and Menshach Alein Haravim. V'Kei Chatzim V'Yasidav. Yes, the heart of Lis V'Chin is Abu Chukalalukus. That's the Ratzi. He should have an Abu Chukalalukus. And even the Hechsta Dargas and Amma. Even Avar Rabba. Which Avar Rabba is Dafke through Hamshacham Maila, but it's but Dafka that Tircha Be'egiv Aved the premise the Meich Believe Tikkun Neshvamos. So Rebbe Shav said before, even Darkis and Avos Hashem, that a person said his own Aved the Kenish the Greichen Ahimsu, Shalei Be'erech, but Avar became the Eivisher is only Mamshach Maila Avar Rabba only after a person heard of it to the maximum of his cases. Hakbanos says Meirich earlier that even though there's a serious Maila, but the Iker that Hamen Shalin heard of it. Vashuv Ugam Kimekeh Chatzim, Vaydeser Meir Chatzim. Kamitis Hashuv Mitzad Etzem Ansham, Mitzad Abitul V'Shif L'Schul, Mitzad HaKavos HaMach Shamayim Shabbat, Mishum Zeh Mechin Hashuv, V'Kavos HaMach Shamayim Kei Chatzim V'Gasik Mishum Zberlo. That's his Meirech Barucha. So what's the code that Rebbe Shah wants to bring for everything that we spoke about before? That you see that it's an Indian, Aveda V'Kei Chatzim is the Indian Ikri. Even though there's an Aveda Hashem that a person can't achieve on his own, has to come Dafka Mamayla, but in order to be Zeichet in Mamayla, you have to have Dafka Aveda V'Kei Chatzim. Only after you did the maximum people that can't start of it, then it's Nimshach Mamayla, the Av Yira Mamayla. And certain Yadim, the main Yira of Hashem, which is Shuv, says Ratzi is only Aham. Shuv is the Matar. And Shuv is Dafka B'Kei Chatzim. Ratzi, you can have Av Yira, which comes Mamayla. Also that, you need to have Dafka your own Aveda. But Shuv, which is the Mataris Aveda, that's Dafka through Aveda Sa'ad. So you see that Aveda Sa'ad, that if the person does, the Kavanas Abriya was, Amen Z'Alein Haravim, and Alein Peil Zan Bezir, Aviyira and Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, it shouldn't be given to Momayla. So that's correct. L'havim taste his beer costing now. Lo Mitzrich Aved V'Kei Chatzim. Why is it so that as a man Alein at Eis Harvim Bezir, his Kabbalah Samach Shamayim, his Aviyira? Why can't they be a little bit nice and give us a little boost, a little Aviyira, a little Kabbalah? What's happening after Alein out Eis Harvim? That's the shayla. Ma Mamayla Bezir. Ma Mamayla Bezir. Because so the Rebbe Shabbos is come to explain. There's different Yurim if you want. If you give everything Mamayla, what's the one we want to test the person. But the Rebbe Shabbos wants to bring out here that there's a Maila. The Indian Avodah is not just to test out a person. In order for you to have the emes Eskashas the Lakus is Dafke to Avodah V'Kei Chatzim. There's a Maila. Aviyur comes a Maila. A person cannot achieve the ultimate keshet to the ultimate aviyira through aviyira which comes after Momayla. The main yisrin being played with the Eibush wants to develop is that with Rabbi V'Kei. That's his going to explain. Ma wa yisrin b'avedus. Ma wa Maila b'avedus. Let's get him out. Ma wa yisrin b'avedus. That's his going to explain. Ve'inin hu de'toranis. He didn't exist. This prat, the Maila, the yisrin Rabbi V'Kei is also. It's not mavur mamish mafurish in the chelik of the hemshech that we're going to learn now. The chedesh vayelech and. It's not like he's Mavir, he goes back to this point to explain a bit later in the Hemshech, based on what he's Mavir and these Hemshech HaMamorim, of this group of Amorim, but they get to the Ma'ila of his Havas HaYesh, there's none that he's Mavir here. So, Medem to verstehen the Hemshech HaMamorim later, he explains in Tikku later Mamorim, the Ma'ila of Eder V'Kei Chatzim. Okay, much better. Interesting. Any of the Nixi, V'Shaptim, Re'isim, Mitzadik, LaRosha, V'Nevid, L'Kum, HaSholeh, but the Pasuk says, and that's the difference between a Tzadik and a Rosha, V'Nevid, L'Kim, LaSholeh, famous shailach. So the rest of the time, the mashim that sholei avad the inner rush says the pasuk already says before, but shaftu b'risam misadik l'rusha. So here the sholei avad the pasuk is not repeating itself. That means that there's two. There's tzaddik. There's limits in a tzaddik and a rasha. Then there is within tzaddikim itself an eved alakim and a sholei avad. Mashma sholei avad the inner rasha. So he doesn't serve the Eibusher. He's not a rasha. Kaima mitzvahs inner ever has a shama leisase. Umikonikim inner eved alakim klal. Is that better? Actually, we can't call him mitzvahs. Vavadish we can't have here. You can say a pashtazach. He does all the mitzvahs, but he does everything because he wants to get a good ilam haber. Tut alf fasich. So he's not serving the Eibusher. He's serving himself. He does everything right. He's not a rasha. Tut alf good. But the Rosh Hashanah says is a mitzvah. One of the mitzvahs is avahavtas sham lekecha, and the teichen mitzvah is that a person should do mitzvahs mitzvah ava. That's so. If he's mekayim kolim bevadi yesh megam ken ava yira. Shoaz das gekim mitzvahs kedabai. If not, is there thoughtem in mitzvahs? Thoughtem is ein tzidkes. If he's doing mitzvahs all the sake of for his own sake, that is not heitz nish ken tzaddik. Because of the Echikara Sholeva, what's the Sholeva? The Stalter says the Tanya, there's two Ifanim in Benin. There's a Benin that has the heart of a Benin, doesn't have the heart of it, the Rebbe Shab is a different beer. That's what they say. Nish, the Alter was in Tanya, in Perek Tezvav, the difference between being Misagia, Lemaida Mergilusay, or a Benin which has to have a Mocham, or a Benin that's a Master with a Mudi B'Tibah. It's a Master, the Rebbe Shab is a different beer. Why this Tzaddik, which has Av Year and Allah Mailas, how it became a calling him Leah Avadi? Kemlish getting the Mebish. Why not? He says like this. So the way someone says the Rashab touches Yasholeh, but it means he's not the Bechina of Evet. He's the Bechina of Ben. Let's get into that. That's what he touches. So the Tzaddik and the Rasha. Then there's the Yiddish is Bechinas Ben to the Eibishter, and a Yiddish is the Bechina of Evet. So Yasholeh Avad, the Yiddish is Bechinas Ben. Let's get into that. In Yedua, that there's two Bechinas. Then you get Yiddish Yesh Bechinas Ben. The Yiddish is the Bechina of a Ben to the Eibishter, and Bechinas Evet. Who's that? Yidden are called Amol Banim. Why they call them Amol Banim and Amol Avadim? Because there's two Inyanim in Yidden. There's one Yidden, the Yidden are Banim Lamakim. There's another Yidden, the Yidden are Avadim to the Eibishim. Which was the B'nai B'chei Yisrael, Banim Atam La'ay Lekechem. And then noch steht doch Siv, Shema Yaakov Avdi, Atir Avdi Yaakov, B'nai Yisrael Avadim Avadim. So this is the thing when you get to whole Klal. So every Yid, there's two Inyanim in every single Yid. One Yidden that is a Ben to the Eibishter, B'nai Yisrael Avadim, or the B'nai B'chei Yisrael is not only going on Chashid, you get a Yid. Every Yid has two Inyanim. One Yid that Yid is a Ben to the Eibishter. Another Indian is that every single Yid has that he's B'chinas Evet HaKadosh Baruch Hu. A lot of times in Mamar we say that the B'china of Torah has the limit of Torah has to do with the B'china of Ben of a Yid, and Kemitzvah is connected to the B'china of Evet of a Yid. Shouldn't be that's it. Every Yid has these two Inyanim of Ben and Evet. It's Einzah. Prati is in Beis Min Neshamas. The Prati is here says there are certain Neshamas that Ikar Inyanim is Ben, and there are Neshamas Ikar Inyanim is Evet. Yesh Neshamas Shekaram Ben, Yesh Neshamas Shekaram Avad. Ukamaymer im Kibanim im Kavad. It sounds like that's if we're a banim, then the Eibusher should be kafekach, and if we're a vadim, but that we're both. That side banim and side. Every yid is called banim atom v'adikeh. Every yid is avadahim. V'zak inka banim inka vadim. So because there's whether we're banim, whether we're a vadim, that means that some neshamas are b'chinas ben and some neshamas are b'chinas avad. That's the okay.
You see that every yid is both.
The Prophet talks when it gets Alman, B'di B'chei Yisrael, that's gewiss Yidden. B'di B'chei Yisrael stigmat certain, that thing, Bonim Atam V'alekech must speak to the whole Klal Yisrael. Huh?
The sort, the time.
Bonim Atam V'alekech, that means the Navi sagt ganz Klal Yisrael, Bonim Atam V'alekech. B'di B'chei Yisrael, when it gets Yisrael, when it gets Alman.
So he doesn't say that.
B'di B'nei Yisrael, Bonim Atam speaking when it gets only, the Eibusher said that when it gets a certain Yidden, every Yid has the Yisr to Shtari Kedim. I'm saying, so the pasuk that gets Alman.
He feels those.
Well, Prat is still good. That's the reason why it brings from Kabbalah. Oh, now, so Akapanim, there's two of them in every Yid, but the Ikva said that there's the Shamas which are the Bechina of Banim, and the Shamas is the Bechina Savadim. Now, what's the Chilk Shishin Banim mit Avadim? So here he goes through a gewisser Seder, wie der Rebbe Shabbos and Vardas. He starts like this. What's the difference between Bepashas Avadim between a Ben and a Eved? The simple Avadim between the difference between a Ben and a Eved. The son is not a stranger than the father. He's from the same family, from the same mahus. He's an extension of the father. He comes from the father, and he's from the same mahus as the father. That's the son. Mashik and Eved is a stranger, a zweiter mensch. He's not related to the father. He was machle to devote himself to the father, to dedicate himself. But he's a zweiter mensch. So what do you say to the shamas which are b'chinas ben and shamas which are b'chinas avad? The push the beer. Let's get to the zaken gleich. Of course, everything about avad. Misa is chaim b'seif. The Eved hainu b'chinas nalan dibya. Never sure Hashem Abi. What's the difference? There's Atzilis and there's Biyah. Atzilus, what's the difference between Atzilus and Bia and Pashtus? Bia is Nivraim. The Eibusha created a Nivra. It's not his extension. The Eibusha created something. Mashiach and Atzilus is not the Eibusha created the world outside of him. Atzilus is the Gila of the Eibusha's Keiches Kaviyom. The Eibusha's Chachmas is Gal in Atzilus. The Eibusha's Midas is Chesed is Gal in Atzilus. Atzilus is not a world independent of him that he created. It's an other Mitzvah Eibusha Tashaf. Atzilus says that the Getlach Keiches of Chachma, Chesed, Buddha, the Feres, the Eibusha's Keiches, are in his Gala, the Gila of the Eibusha's Keiches, that's Atzilus. So Atzilus is Elukus. It's the Gila of the Eibusha's Keiches. Mashiach in Bia, is Havas of Vel, Mitzvah, Eilumis. So there's so there's Nishnevich, so it's Chaim State, Pchinas Eved is Nalam de Bia. I mean, every Nisham, after some time, every Nisham is Moshe Shechach Milad Atzilus. But the Poil, the same Atzilus is the Moshe, same way we know that the Seder Advarim from till the Vlad, when the Vlad starts out the Tipas, the Kudah, the Tipas Me'achad, then it has to go through a whole process until it's Nislavish and it becomes the whole Metzias of the Ramach Evrim Shasagidin, the whole Metzias of it. And there's Lamad. The Shadish of all Neshamas are the Chach Milad Atzilus. But in order for the Neshama to be Nislavish and the Guf and Neshama, it goes through a whole long process. And it goes to such a process till most Neshamas get a form of Bia. Never Shuach Neshama is not Salaichish in the Neshama, it's Mahuas, the way it is in Chach Milad Atzilus. That you have Neshamas of the Chayes Reish B'nai Yisrael. The average Neshama is that goes through a whole Seder Shtalshalas and a whole process until the Neshama is Mistayer and the Tzir of Bia. Neshama is that they're Mikabel the Tzir of Bia, that's the Refer Shuach Neshama to Bia. The Neshama that goes through a whole process, and now it's in the form of a Nivra. It has the Tzir of a Nivra, has the image of a Nivra, so then that's Pchenas Evet. A Nivra is a Metzias outside of Elikos. It's not his extension. It's the Eibusha created Bia. A Neshama, which is in the form of a Nivra, in the form of Bia, he could devote himself to the Eibusha. That's a Pchen of an Evet. An Evet is a stranger, not the Odin, not for the family of the Odin. He doesn't come from the Odin. A stranger, which is Mevatl himself to the Odin. Neshama which are Pchinas Abadim are a never Shuach Neshama Pchinas Bia means that the Neshama which is in the Tzir of a Nivra outside of Elikos, and he is Mevatl, so he is Mismas with Elikos. That's the Pchinas Evet. That's what he says. The Evet had Pchinas Naram de Bia. Was then Misha Zeichel and Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus means a tzaddik that by him his Neshama never came into the form of a Nivra. His Neshama was never mishtalshal to the tzir of a Nivra to Bia. Ba'em B'Faran and Neshama Atzilus. That means Ba'em Laich the Sheirish and Neshama the way it is in Atzilus. So he's a ben. Why is he a ben? Punta Zevi a ben. Is Mimchus Ha'av is not a he's not a stranger. He's not a stranger from him. He's the same host as the father. So the Rebbe Shuach Neshama Atzilus is Mimchus Ha'av. So he b'chinas ben LaKadosh Baruch. That's the Pashtus Abir that he brings from his side. Okay. Then he adds another prat. But I'm the Pashtus Bahar that Kufiraf from Beis Isa. He says another Dort Shtei Beslandish. Dort Shtei Bezim Yad Libanash Kuchibricha Beirak Klal. When a person knows has idea Klolis no Lukus, he knows that there's an Eibush there. Klos the Gedeas about Lukus. So Kedein Yikri Evet. That's what I'm going to find Evet. He has idea Klos no Lukus. The Simna the Yodel Eirach Prat. He knows more Pratim no Lukus. Kedin ikri ben rechimedele. He's called the Balipter son. Keben the Chovesh b'Gnisi v'Choraz in the base. The parsha of the Ram Hemna is the same way a son, a Eved, as Ish Zar, it's a stranger, so you don't let him into all the secrets. You don't tell him all the Bahalton status from their tata. You don't trust the Ish Zar, a Ben that he's so a Ben Chaviv, the father that sailed him all his anesthesias, and he knows all his father's eitzes. He's Hamish b'Gnisi v'Choraz in the base. So the pashas of the Ramhem is not explaining that the difference between Aved and Ben is a mohos. He's more a neshama which able to advise kir of kaviyachal and chiba to them, chiba to the extent of the chiba to Ben. So that's a yid which knows the lukus beirach prat. A neshama which doesn't have that level of chiba, that's yadalei lukus beirach klal. But the Samasadik, the Rashab Prish and Mak beirach chamo, is mavaya that this is the same thing as what the Yitzchayim says. Mishi yesh neshama that silis hu yadak haknisa v'laz in the base. So it's from Kabbalah. But כשיש לך an Bia, ידע לקשור רק בערך כלל. He's a chalik that klal and prat is not just in the kamos. Klal is someone that knows only general, and prat he knows more. It's a different type of idea. Era klal means that you know the Eibusha from outside, not from inside. You know the Eibusha apiseichu. That's neshama de Bia. You're not from the same horse of Elikus. You're a nivra. A nivra. So then you respect mit zayin seichu. So vifla mensch can verstehen Elikus. Vifla mensch can verstehen Elikus. That's how an outsider knows Elikus. Mashiach Pchinas Ben is that Ba'em like the Inin Kameshu. Elikus Kameshu is made by him. That's keben the Chavish. He dreizich around the Gnisi the base. He's the fnim. He's in the Father's house. He knows all the secrets of the Father. Why is he know all the secrets? Because it's innovating. That's what he brings from the Yeracham. So it's the same Nekuda as what he says in Mitzchayim. The difference between Eved and Ben is Eved is that he's a different Mahus than Elokus. And the male is Yidi in Elokus is the way someone from outside knows Elokus. That he says Yidi al Piseichu. Yes, behind Yidi al Piseichu. Mashik and Neshama is that Tzilis. What's the Chovish begins to the base that he knows all this. Why does he know all this? Because by him like Elokus Kameshu. Because he's Mahus. He's Mahus Elokus. V'zeu ha'eskin b'Kabbalah chulu. It's good to know this. I'm saying this is the word Mekubalim. You say the word Mekubalim, but the way it touches over here, Esik Mekubalim means there's one in a Yid learn Torah, Yid is Esik in Yidiyas Elikus. How is the Elikus Kameshu is not Meir by him? He's a Nivra. He is no Erech for him that Elikus Kameshu is Meir. So Erve is Vifel Ekem Verstehen. You use this Seichel and tries to understand. I'm just able to understand. I'm just able to understand the Nivra, whatever is able to understand. Kabbalah means that the Indian Kameshu is Meir by him. That's Kabbalah. He's Mekabel the Indian Kameshu. Not that the ideas are according to how much his seichel is able to reach. The Indian Kameshu is neskabel by him. So that's because the Chatchile, his mayach and his chacham seichel is seichel eliki. So if someone that your seichel is nirgash that it's the chachma that tzilis that's nimshach lamata, it's the avish's chachma the way it's nimshach in a neshama, then that type of seichel is a keli that the emes Kameshu should be married. That's Kabbalah. If it's seichel, it's not Kabbalah already. If it's a limud that you're learning it, I'm saying if you're reading words, really it's chaim, it's tamas, kriyas, eisi, so that's not what he's saying. Ismail is someone that is shaychas the Kabbalah, so so that's nesham is that's nesham is that tzilis. Yodil the kuchibruk rak beirach klal. Yeah, that's a different. That's understand. There's darkness in Ismail. That's a muslim that a yid that's a kid that a lukus kameshu should be married higher than seichel. So the Giluy that the Mekubal has, a kind of such uptouch in the Seichel, that it's higher, it's the Indian Kameshu who higher than Asagas and Avraham is made by. It's a different type of video. Good. So, you say the blade because the Mekubal, as I start Mekubal, not about the Baba somewhere. Yod the Kashmir Agber, a couple days, the Rishus, the Chabshi, begins to go. Nimtza, the bottom, and the Sham is that Tzilis, Vavadim, the Sham is the Bian. So, Kapana, was kommt raus von Seifen der Yitzchayim von drei Männern? That Bonim is on a Sham. What's the Atzilus? Yeah, Atzilus is not something outside of Elikus. Atzilus is that the Eibush there's Keiches are this God. So it's not a Metzias Mibechutz Elikus. That's the Sham is the Ma. Why the Sham is that's the Pchinas Ben that they're Mimhus Elikus, and the Sham is the why Avodim is a stranger outside of Elikus. That's the Sham is the Bian. The Sham is that come into the form of a Nivra. That's up there. The Pasha. So da hebt on reden a tiffer beer from the India Dua. He's starting a tiffer beer in the India. You put a video, but I'm saying I said something about the Baba, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm saying. It makes it better, but I'm saying you have to cut it out if you feel that. Good. If some might get offended, then yeah, we know that it's not going to happen. Good. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim va'avadim. I'm saying for other things. If I say something that's not appropriate, you'll have to take it out. That's what I'm saying. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim va'avadim. Oh, so it does up to that tifle beer. This thing banim va'avadim. This is all. The emes is the akdama to call sahemshach, but I'm not going to skip. We'll go through it. When you do the neshama is the b'chanas banim va'avadim. Shnei and Mishach and Chunas and the emes is till now the Havana was between Ben and Eved is that Ben is the neshama which is Pchinas Atzilus is Ben. Means a neshama that Ba'em never became a tzir of a nivra. So geblim the mahos the way it is. It's nirgish the neshama that it's a get b'chazar, that it's a mos alaki. That's Atzilus. It's Pchinas Ben. On a neshama which is the form of a nivra, that's Pchinas Eved. So now the Rebbe says, but you do that all neshama, side banim, side pchinas avodim, shneim nimshach pchinas yichud zun datzilus. So both neshamas are nimshach from the yichud of zav v'nikud datzilus. We'll see soon. But both are nimshach from zav v'nikud datzilus. Oh, no, point number one. Now, where do we see that all neshamas are nimshach from datzilus? Ki b'derech klal, hisavas neshamas pchinas datzilus dafke. That's I'm saying this was some Kabbalah. It was negay as one prat. In order for the to be the mitzvah of neshamas, the stand for pchinas atzilus dafke. Good. Pchinas zav and nuk for the bria aim bekechem havas neshamas came along. Mish gas time shar say the rabia. Point number one. So point number one is important to remember. All neshamas, Sai Ben, Sai Evet, the makar of all neshamas is from the yichud of Zah and Malchus Atzilus. We'll see soon why this is. Okay, this we knew before also, but we'll see what he wants to build with this. We were saying before it is Avada. All the neshamas are mushish and Atzilus, but certain neshamas, when they go through the process, told the nimshach and guf nefesh ba'amis, so they come into the form of a nivra. Like the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, I'm saying not all. Why do you have to come up to the Vegas of Chacham? But the Chacham is Meir their Makir and Chacham Midlah. That's it. Shaykh and other neshamas, they go through the whole Seder Shtashmus. They go through Abiyah, like that says in Perek Beis in Tanya, Bri Yitzir Asiyah, and then they identify themselves with the Tzir of Abiyah, and it's their misrachik from the Sheish. Okay, but so Meir, but saying before is not a still that we're saying here. Well, he's building up something. So it's to do it that all neshamas come from the Yichud Zav of that sense. That's point number one. Amnu Borsham Beitz Chayim, the Yichud Zav and Nukul Hed Neshamas Zibriya. Kishamas Atzos Lama Shein Another Yichud Ava. At this point, says there's Yichud Ava. B'chlal, that's it's Mistag in the Kabbalah, which is already trying to get to explain this in the Hamshich over here. But the Yichud of Abba ve'Ima wird von der Yichud von zwei Inyanim wird the Hilodas Neshamas. So Yichud Abba ve'Ima wird Neshamas. He's mechalik. We said Yichud Ava is this having Neshamas which stay in Atzilus. Mashiach from Yichud Zun. Our nimshach neshamas which are nimshach involved. Our neshamas that we're dealing with here is not a neshama that is flat in atzilus. It's a neshama which is mislabish in a guf. But even the way the neshama is in a guf, it's nirgash that it's p'chinas atzilus which is nimshach in a guf. But we're dealing with neshamas which are nimshach involved. We'll see later why this is negay. Neshamas that's mamish and yichud zun yikam achim v'leim uzah. But neshamas and yichud zun who should the b'biyah. So assign neshamas the biyah. What does he want to prove from here? That sign neshamas the evet, sign neshamas the ma, and the sign neshamas of ben. They're all neshamas misat echad are mushish in atzilus, and leidach they're nimshach in veld. We're dealing with a neshama which is mislabish in a guf in the hazeh. A neshama which stays up as is one atzilus that comes from yichud avot. The shtamtish in yichud zon. All neshamas which are mislabish in a guf, so neshamas all neshamas come from yichud zon and nukva, and they're mislabish in a guf. We'll see later the hezbollah. That's the nukva that he says. Oh, so now we come gesh with a state that biur that there's a difference in Eved and Ben is for a different reason. We come gesh with a state b'chinas. B'chinas bonim shenisham is that tzilus. When zon shenisham is the biyah. What he wants to say, what he wants to say is, till now we learned the reason neshama is the ban, neshama that tzilus is a ben. If you was Meir of the course, the mocker and atzilus is Meir, then your neshama b'chinas ben. A neshama which is not Meir b'gali, it's sheidish atzilus. But it's mislavish the tzir of biyah, so that's the neshama b'chinas. Here he wants to say that even neshamas, that by them is Meir, the mocker and atzilus, is also there's neshamas the man neshamas, there's neshamas the evid and neshamas the ben. Basically, there's two inyanim in a lakus melchatchila. There's one inyan in a lakus which we said that inyan, the neshama. There's the inyan of zah, which mitzad zah the neshamas v'shtamin from zah. Arguably neshamas atzilus. There's another inyan in a lakus which is called malchus, and neshamas which are mushash malchus. Their inyan is biyah. That's what he wants to say. The chilik is not that means that if you're bayuz meir atzilus you're b'chinas ben. It's the Ratchila two and Atzilus. So the Neshama that has his Indian is to be regarded the B'china of Zada Atzilus is B'chinas Ben. Is one B'china. Mashayik the Neshama is their Indian is to be regarded the B'china of Malchus Atzilus. That Neshama is called B'chinas Ben. So it's a new beer. That's what he wants to bring up. We'll see that it is going to be connected. But it's the B'chinas Ben. He didn't do that. All Neshamas are Nimshach Muzun Atzilus, and they're all Nimshach in Welt. What's the same? Mikom Kemesh B'chinas. Nish later beer versus Akfrir. That the reason why Neshama is the biyah is called Eved is because it's Nis'al in the Sheirish Natzilis. Even Neshama is the B'dem is Meir Begoli their Makar Natzilis. After became Mikomikim there's two B'chinas. That's what he wants to say. Even the B'china of Neshamas, that even the way they're Nimshach in biyah, it's Nirgash their Makar Natzilis, is all Neshamas which come from Zun are Nimshach in biyah, are Nimshach in Vel. But saying regular neshamas as the neshamas that we're dealing with, and neshamas tamas are regular people, it's b'chal not meir the makar natzilis. Even neshamas for them is meir the makar natzilis. Mikom kim yesh b'sei beis b'chinas. That's what it's like. So what is it? So b'chinas ban neshamas natzilis. B'chinas ban neshamas easy to explain. V'hainu average neshamas t'chul neshamas the nukva. So that's the difference in neshamas of zah and neshamas of malchus. Zah is t'chul. The alderech like the late the begashmis comes from a zachar and the keva. So alderech zeh yichud zun is male the neshamas. So zah is the zachar. And Malchus is the Nukva. It's all B'chinas in the Lukus. Malchus also B'chinas in the Lukus. So Neshama is that. So what's the Neshama is B'yah, Neshama is Abad, and Neshama is B'chinas Ben. The Chilik is not Nivraim Lukus. Which in the Lukus they're Megal. They come from. If you come from the Pchin of Zah, Pchin Zacher, so then your Neshama is the Ma. And Masha'ink, the Neshama is the Pchin Ben. Masha'ink, the Neshama is of Nukva, that's Malchus. Let's get to the Malchus. The Neshama is the Ma, the Ikram from Pchin Zah, and the Neshama is the Ma, or that's up. The Neshama is the Ma, the Ikram Pchin Zah, the Neshama is the Ma, the Ikram Pchin Malchus. That's up to that. That's to the roof. So that's to get to the Malchus. So he says, Ima years ago, Neshama is called Pchin Zah. The all the Neshamas come from Yuchud Zav Vinuk. Here, this is what we do. All the Neshamas come from Yuchud Zav Vinuk. And all the Neshamas are Nimshach are Kol and Zav. Kol Neshmas are coming. You can come and Kadisha. It means they're Nimshach from Zav. Mikchinas that's solution. If you do it, making Kol Neshamas Nichlol Mikchinas Machas Mikchinas Ibur Nimshach Madia Machas. That comes. Yesh Yesh Beis Badreis. Shesh Neshamas Ikrim Mikchinas Zav. After Elim Sakim Kol Mikchinas Ibur Machas. Yeah, out there you have stam in the mashal. You have a father and a mother. Some children are more devoted to the father, some are more devoted to the mother. So out there is in the nimshal. All the neshamas come from Yuchud Zav V'Nukva, Yichud Zav. But some neshamas ikram is Zah, and some neshamas ikram is Malchus. I mean, some neshamas ikram yanam is that there should be megabel the union of Zah Datzilis. Either also nimshach Malchus, because in order for Zah Datzilis to be nisgal in Veld, it has to go through Malchus. But it only goes through Malchus with Derech Ma'ivir. But they don't identify themselves as Malchus. No, it says they get Ashpa with their Slapshus. Someone writes a Seichel and someone's writing down a Svara. So even though you have to use your hands, but the Yad is not with Samson the Svara. You're not going to say that when you're writing down the Svara through the Klei Yad to write the Svara down on a paper, so the Svara now is going to become more Megushim according to the Klei Yad. The Yad is just used as a tool to bring the Svara down al Aksab. So Ashpa with their Chmayim. Ashpa with their Slapshus means that the Indian is the Samson, according to the Lavush that you're being megaled. So you have every neshama has to go through Machas because the neshama is dimshach in Velt in Guf. In the Rosh Bahamas, it has to go through the Lavush of Machas, but not the derech Slapshus, the derech Ma'ivir. So some neshamas ikri yanim is Zah, and they only go through Machas and derech Ma'ivir, and some neshamas ikri yanim is Malchus. And the reason why they have Zah is for a different reason. They didn't have different beer, but that's the Kodesh. So this is already a new beer. Different neshamas the man, neshamas the ba. Now the Indian. Till now the chilik is Nivro or Lakus. Here it's why some of the V'ram are more nislavish in Velt and some of the V'ram bleiben Atzilus, because there's two in Yanim and Atzilus Gufa. If you're in his Zad Atzilus, that's the Shamas the Ma, and if you're in his Malchus Atzilus, you're in his Bia. That's Akta. Kom ki yeshim ze beis madrigas. Yesh Shamas Ikrim Mchinas Zad Afke. Ve'enim es Akmin Kol Kab Mchinas Ibur B'Malchus. And he brings a duk Menishas Meisha is the Shamas the Ma. The Shamas the Mchinas V'nachnu Mo. The Shamas the Ma is Zah, because Zah, it says that Zah is Adam is Ma, different beauty than the Shamas that Zah is P'chinas Ma. We'll see later. So Nishmas Moshe was only P'chinas Ibur B'Gashim is only Zayin Chadosh. What does that mean? That means he was only in the Nukva for the shortest amount of time. It means he never wasn't Nisachad with Malchus. His Indian was Zah. V'hainish the Nishtana was a Be'etzim Mahusik for Nishtana. Yeah, Zayin Mahusik given Zah Datzilis, the Sham the Ma. He was a Malchus only with Derech Ma'ivir in order for him to be established in the Guf. But it's not that his Mahus became the Mahus of Malchus. His Nishtana is the Betzim Mahus. The Yesh Shirikin of B'chinas Malchus, who must act from Yesir of B'chinas Ibur, Kamel Yoshi, B'shai B'ibur, Yud Beis Chadashim, Eliyahu Navi. Because Eliyahu Navi in Yoni was the Shamas the Ba. So Eliyahu Navi was also Yid, was the Shamas Datzilus, he wasn't the Shamas Bia. But Eliyahu Navi's Inyan was Malchus, not Zah. He's speaking of the higher degrees. Shamas Ikrim B'chinas Zah, and this now is connected to the Pirish that he says here to what he said before. He says the Shamas the Ikrim B'chinas Zah, that's B'chinas Shamas Datzilus. The Gambi the das Lamata in B'chinas Datzilus. This Kedua the Zah who Saf Elam Ein Saf. This already he's saying it a certain beer already. Should we discuss this? Das Shana Indian. Mazarang and Nacha Indian. We should do Elam Halt. We'll go a little weiter. So maybe we'll go a little weiter. So what they start saying here is, what's the difference between, I'm going to say about peppers, then we'll see it inside. What's the difference between, what did he say before? All the shamas which come from Yichud Zon, their market is Atzilus, and their Nimsa in Biyah. The shamas which stay in Atzilus, that comes from Yichud Avot. But the mechuvan of the Yichud Zon is the head of the shamas the Biyah, in Velt. But in Velt Kufa, you have Iker Zon, Iker Malchus. So the Kuda is like this. The Kuda is that there is, what does it mean that it's certain Neshamas Ikram is Zah and certain Neshamas Ikram is Malchus? You say that the in the mashal, we're speaking about what's the yachas of Elam is the gabi the b'china of Zod Atzilus, the gabi b'china of Zod V'Lukus, and what's the gather Elam the gabi Malchus. See in the mashal Nefesh Adam, for example, the difference between Malchus and Zod usually is dibur and midas. You say a person in Chveis had avad to someone else, or he's afraid of someone else. So in Meichin, it's the way the person is b'cham mufshut from shaychus to Zulas. So this says in order for a person to understand and to Chveis verstehen gut, he has to be b'avdala. When you want to think and figure something out, it can't be when you're in a state of regesh towards the inyan or a state of regesh towards someone else. You have to be calm. You have to be collective. You have to be in your own, be able to be in your own little element in order to understand. So meichin is avdala. So there is a chinas avodat tzilis. Red b'chal neshig involved. Meret neshig melet and neshamas involved. That's the way the kus is in his own element kaviyot. Zah is already midas. Midas is a person is libat state. So that's already is in a state of having a regesh. A state of kiruv. He has a emotion towards someone else. But in midas, what's the meaning of midas? Of let's say av. Av is what's this person's regesh towards the other person. Av is not about the other person. It's what's Reuven's feeling towards Shimon. That's the midas. I say the contrast. When you speak about dibur is not a dibur. The whole matorah the keich dibur is a person without speaking because has everything b'shleimus. He can have midas b'shleimus. He has alchata b'shleimus. What's the only chasar without speaking? That the other person doesn't know what he feels. He doesn't know what he's thinking. So what's the chasar in Reuven if Shimon doesn't know what he's thinking? There's no chasar. The whole matorah of dibur is as Shimon's all this of us. So the whole matorah of Shimon is only for the zulas. So dibur, so there is midas. There's also you can't be mitzayir midas that is. You can't be mitzayir ava if there's no something that you're nimshach to. You can't deal with yir if you're not dealing with something outside of the person that is being nimshach. But in ava, it's not the get the zulas itself. It's what's Reuven's relationship to the zulas. What's his attitude towards the zulas? He likes it, doesn't like it. What is the yachas of Reuven to Shimon? Mashegin in dibur, it's not about my yachas to Reuven to Shimon. It's in order for Shimon to know the information. It's about Shimon himself, not about the Reuven's yachas to Shimon. So Al Derez is saying when you speak when you get to Zod Malchus that Tzilis, what's the Abisha creates a world? What's the point of creating the world? What's Vum? What's Zuchman? What's the purpose? Mitzad the B'china of Zod, the whole idea of creating a world is not that there should be a world. We want a heaven, an earth, place. There's no Indian of heaven and earth. The Abishter's mindless, the Abishter's bleak bull should be in his gala. How is the Abishter's bleak bull in his gala? That the Abish is so unlimited that if he wants, he can create a world. The Abish is so big that if he wants it, so in that case, the Indian of Elam the reason why there's Havas Elam is not for the sake of creating a world. There should be a Shemesh or a Rakia or a Yereah. The point is that the Abish is Keiches Kaviyachal should be in his gala. That's inside the B'china of Zah. Al Derech, like I said, when you get to Midas, Zah is the B'china of Midas. Al Derech by a person. In Midas, there's already a Yachas to someone else. It's not the person is say removed from a Shaykhas to another. Like someone else, Avet on other, Yirat on other. But it's all what's the person's attitude towards another. What's his Yachas towards another. Al Derech and Al-Lukus, you have Mitzat B'chinas Avodah Al-Lukus, the Eibush is B'chal higher than creating a world. Mitzat Zah, we are relating. The Eibush relates himself and his Mahava Velt and his Nimshach Velt. But what's the purpose? For the sake of there should be a world, or in order to say the Elam is Eichet Tinsa, the Eibush in Yanim should be in his Gal. That's mitzad zah. Sheikim said b'chinas malchus. Malchus is that Lukus has something. Do what they can say when you get to the person. That a person has a keach hadibur. A person has a keach not for the sake of expressing himself, to make space for someone else. A person has a keach as he has a keach to a dibur a yener zal herem v'zachrei. Not for the sake of him having an act towards someone else. The meaning of dibur is that the person has a keach to make space for someone else. There's evidence because Malchus is a makir b'sher sheshbin avran. So this is an Indian ikri also when they get to what type that's the hip to You can see just the first few Lashonis. It says Sham is ikri m'chinas zah. Well, we do just 2 lines because the Sham is ikri m'chinas zah. He m'chinas Sham is datzilis. The gam b'ridas l'mati m'chinas datzilis. Kedua the zah who saf elu ein saf.